just nothing. But you sure we got that clue? How bad this we go? Don't you know? No more art. And as I look to the horizon, not a cloud, but then stormy weather's go too cold. Seems like it crept up out of nowhere, all around you is not what to foretold. You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes. You're done, but the time it hit you, you're not surprised.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News, the unreliable ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newsroom and welcome to the Goutopia News Network, your unreliable source for DSP News. No tagline yet. That's a lie. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know on the Chinese calendar, 2019 is the year of the pig? I know, right? It's the year of the golden pig, to be exact. Excuse me. A rather joyous occasion, I'm sure. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, supposedly, this year is supposed to be very prosperous. There's supposed to be a whole lot of good luck going on, at least for those born in the year of the pig, obviously. But Phil is a special case. He is our own little, well, not little, but he's our own special golden pig. As gouty as he might be, he's ours. And we have to claim all that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this one time, at least as it pertains to the opening, there's no bacon cooking. But that's okay. Don't leave just yet. The bacon will be sizzling in just a second. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be here with Mr. Huff Stuff's DarkSydePhil. Let's Call of Duty BlackOut Q&A. I think this was recorded on... it was actually recorded on February 2nd, 2019. I'm currently recording this on the 4th. So I've been out of the loop for a little while. I know that a lot has gone on and I've missed a lot of stuff. Let's do like a small recap, if you will. Excuse me. Phil has been celebrating on the fall of Machinima. Kingdom Hearts 3 apparently has ruined Phil's business. Which, isn't this the same spiel he tried to give us back at last year for God of War? Swaggins apparently wanted to bring his ass up and off the porch, only to pay to go back on that porch. A lot of stuff. On the end over here at GTG Network Productions, we had like 12 videos recorded, and they were all ready to be uploaded to YouTube. And for whatever reason, the hardware failed, and everybody was freaking out, trying to, basically being like, it was my fault. I don't know, I was out of town, but it doesn't matter whose fault it was nobody's fault. I'll take responsibility for that. We are trying to retrieve the 12 videos, or 12 news broadcasts. If not, I'll just have to re-record them. It's whatever. But just for the record though, I usually ask Asian GTG to back up everything onto a small hard drive, like an external, that I usually carry around with me. So it might be on there. I just have to go back and make sure the dates match up. If they do, we're fine. But they won't know about that until they hear this. Cute cuddly dog in a sharp suit is also very, very sneaky. So there's always that. On top of that, one thing though that I didn't think about is for the second channel I've been working on. I had recorded a bunch of videos going over some of Almighty Tevin, praise be Almighty, some of his older videos. I had some old stuff from like 2 or 3 years ago from Snort Burnell, just trying to get back into refreshing myself and giving me just a crash history lesson, if you will, to some extent. That was on that computer too. So if those are gone, I'm really screwed, and that's losing like another 6. So I might not be as slick as I thought I was, but we'll see. We'll see. So a lot of nonsense on my end, a lot of nonsense on Phil's end. I hope you guys are all doing well, and that's pretty much the cut and dry of that. We can just go ahead, I think, and get into the video proper, because there's no reason to hold it back, ladies and gentlemen. You're the pig. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dspnews. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh yes! Oh yes! A GTG Network Productions. You guys all know the slogan. And I hope you guys are doing well. It's time to watch me work.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome to Blackout. I haven't played this in a while. Poopster cheered, and he says, some of your older content is crazy. You really have mellowed out a lot over the years. Dude, that's like I told you when I first started.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into Poopster's question and Phil mellowing out, we are here with, yet again, with Mr. Huff Stuff's DarkSydePhil, Call of Duty BlackOut from February 2nd of 2019 Q&A. Oh boy. Oh, for people who are wondering where the layout's at, all of that is on the Twitter and whatnot. There's also some fan art that I'm hoping to use moving forward, but a lot of that was also saved onto that particular. We had everything that we do as it pertains to DSP all on that one machine, so yeah, that's poor. That's buggy planning mechanics on our part here at GTG Network Productions. But as usual, we'll bounce back. That's what we do around here. So, here we go.
I was a totally different person. When I was first making videos on YouTube, number one, I was in a much different place in my life. I was, like, overweight. I was angry at life, angry at my job. I hated, like, everything going on around me. So when I recorded stuff for YouTube, it was, like, a way for me to just, like vent rage and just say really stupid over-the-top shit that I knew was really dumb, but people loved it back then. It was like the more stupid you could be, the more crazy nonsense I could spout, the more people liked it, you know? 2019 is certainly not 2008 anymore, you know what I mean? 11 years, a lot has changed in the world of the internet, and I wouldn't be able to get away with a tenth of the stuff that I did back then if I tried to do that shit today.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So, back in 2008, he was he was overweight, angry, in a shitty job he didn't like, living at home with mommy and daddy who took care of all of his whims. Yeah, I guess that's a whole lot to be mad at. Now, I was watching a old Almighty Tevin video, which I actually had recorded, but I'm not going to spout about that right now, where Tevin had talked about when he discovered Phil, like some of Phil's content, like when he seriously started enveloping himself into Phil's content. And it was back when oh boy, let's see if I can do Almighty Tevin proud with this. This is back when Phil was playing Street Fighter 4. And though Tevin didn't like playing Street Fighter 4 himself, he enjoyed watching people play it. So that's really how he kind of discovered Phil and really started to kind of binge watch him, so to speak. He was watching also another gaming channel. And back then, because I wasn't watching YouTube back at that time, it was a different type of place. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was everybody kind of coming in and kind of this. Tevin said it was something new, and everybody was kind of just coming in and just kind of putting out there what they were putting out there. The way I want to kind of illustrate it to you is think of it as a bunch of people discovering themselves. You have a platform where, because remember, it is called it's YouTube, and you have a YouTube channel. So think of it as like a channel on television or even radio, as Phil likes to use as his common excuse for why he was a dumbass. It's your channel. It allows you to be you, right? And you have a bunch of people kind of trying to get in where they fit in, and at the same time trying to discover themselves. And Phil, as in how he expresses himself with comedy in some ways, or his lack thereof, he goes with the easiest shit. He goes with the kind of really dumbfounded, the very cheap, sadly very offensive. He goes with that type of comedy because it's easy to him. The problem is he has no delivery, he has no punction, he has no personality, he has no persistence. So in turn, it just comes off bad. It just comes off unprepared. It comes off like the ramblings of someone who could be considered either racist, sexist, ignorant, you know, all the things that Phil is, but it really kind of encompasses that. Now, is Phil, as Argent had said recently in one of his last couple of DSP videos, shouts out to Argent, is Phil a card-carrying member of the KKK? No, he's too stupid. But, no, so he's not that. But he's certainly offensive as shit. And he's certainly pissed off that he can't use that same type of offensive, cheap comedy or cheap jokes or whatever to have his way. He's very pissed off that he can't do that. He wasn't willing, nor is he still not willing, to move forward and try something else. But then, what would you expect from a shut-in? He's somebody who doesn't do anything. He doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't interact with anything. Or anybody, really. Cat doesn't even count. As far as I'm concerned, she's a ghost. So, all the interaction he gets is through a screen. There's nothing real to him besides the monitor. There's nothing else there. Everything else is out of his spectrum. That's why he acts the way he acts. If you look back at 2008 Phil, he looked like he could conduct himself. In some ways, I think that's what a lot of people still try to hold on to. Fans and detractors alike, to some degree, is 2009 Phil. Because he seemed like at least a human being to some extent. Not the drone that he is now. He's nothing now. He's a shell. I mean, yeah, he's a shell of what he was. And that's another thing that screwed him over. As time moved on, as people progressed and tried to expand on the genre, Phil did one thing and stuck with it because he was rewarded for it. People liked his comedy despite how stupid it was. He ended up getting some type of feedback, most of it all positive, and he ran with it. Yet again, another thing that Tevin had talked about, where people weren't really because he was on the platform back then, I wasn't. But people on the platform back then didn't necessarily shit on you. He said they used to have like a star rating system back in those days, between 1 and 5. So you had your star system, your star rated system, I'm sorry. And then most people just either wouldn't comment or they would just be passive about their comments, which is kind of, I guess, a harking back to that day. And now people are a bit more opinionative. People have something to say when it pertains to certain things. Let me give you an example. Back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, let's say ESPN, right? With ESPN, if you didn't like how a commentator was coming off, you kind of dealt with it. Granted, most of the commentators up there now aren't very good anymore. But when they used to actually be good, when they actually had some personality, when they used to actually be on the ball, you know what I'm saying? Even if you had those 1 or 2 outliers that weren't very good, you kind of, you ignored it and you kept it moving. Now, if you don't like what any of those dudes up there are saying, or any of the females up there that are saying, you can immediately get on Twitter, you can get on Instagram, you can go right on to ESPN.com and say what you want to say in real time. And that's kind of what the accessibility of the internet did. It gave people an easier way to reach out. Phil himself benefited from that in a lot of ways. That's why he was able to talk his shit about Mitch Dyer. That's the way he was talking about hitting other IGN writers and shit. That's why he was able to do this, that, and the third. So he benefited from those same type of privileges, that same type of progression as everybody else did. The problem was, and the problem still is, is he didn't like it when it was brought back to him. It's very easy to sling dirt at everybody. But if you're not willing to get dirty yourself, then get the hell out. And Phil never, for whatever reason, he won't pick up that lesson, or he believes he's the exception to the rules. And that's what his major problem is. So when he says, oh, all the dumb stuff I said, and this, that, and the third, and I've changed this, that, and the third, you keep saying stupid shit. You still keep acting like a dumbass. And so, as a reference, people go back to your past. So if you're really going to change, then change. If not, shut up and take everything that comes to you. You don't really have a choice either which way. DSP News.
Fedoras says, do I think my content will go through a crazy phase in the future when I go through my midlife crisis? Dude, you realize that, like, there's no way that I can go through a midlife crisis? Because, see, here's the thing. A midlife crisis happens when you're someone who basically had a life, a kind of life that you live. Then, as you got older and more mature... Hey, it's so loud. Alright, shut up. When you get older and more mature, you did things like, oh, I got married, I had a family, a bunch of kids. So now I'm tied down in a job that I really don't like, and I'm tied down with a bunch of kids now. That's all I don't have free time anymore, because all I do is spend time with my kids. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of people that have a midlife crisis, because then they want to basically pretend like they're in their 20s again. So they go out and they buy an expensive car and they cruise around town and they basically shirk all their responsibility. That's not me at all. And in fact, you know, my lifestyle is so not like that when you really think about it. You know what I mean? Like, my lifestyle is, the job that I do, I absolutely love, right? And even though, admittedly, no, I can't do everything that I want to do, and financially, I'm fucking screwed. It's not like I'm in a situation where, oh my god, I hate everything I do, and I made all these horrible decisions in life, and now I just want to go back to being how things were. It's not like that. Look, there's a guy right there.
Alright, since he's trying to shark the question in some ways, let's approach some of that. Now, if I have to be honest with you, what he described kind of sounds like what you see in, like, movies from, like, the 80s and 90s, where people say they have midlife crises because of such and such situation, usually revolving around the wife and children, which is everything that Phil doesn't want. I have a theory on that too. Not a Theo theory per se, but I have a theory about that also. But that's kind of what that sounds like. And if that is the case, especially all the people who, for example, that I work with, they're older than I am. None of them have had midlife crises, if you will. But they, you know, you get to a situation in life where you feel like you could have had more than what you did. You could have done more than what you could have had more or done more than what you actually have. And usually when it comes to a midlife crisis, it usually becomes from an excessive amount of stress. That's not necessarily because of your friends and family, even though it could be, but it's usually because you yourself feel unfulfilled, right? That's one component, but everybody's different. So I won't dwell on that too much. Everybody will have their opinion on it, and I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks in the comment section. As it pertains to Phil, I think it's very telling in the fact that, oh, a midlife crisis is wife and children, this, that, and the third. You know, you had a certain lifestyle, now you don't have it anymore, and that's what makes you feel such and such, yada, yada, yada. In a lot of ways, and this is all my personal theory, of course, I believe he's describing himself. In a lot of ways, this is where the Theo, not exactly the Theo theory, actually comes into play. I feel like at some point in Phil's childhood, he heard an argument between his parents where one may have said, we probably wouldn't even be married if it wasn't for Phil. And the reason why is there's not really many people that I could ever say that are like Phil Burnell. I don't think I've met really anybody like him. But the few people that have his type of tendencies tend to have parents, well, they tend to be the only child. They tend to have parents who I wouldn't say live with regret, but if they could have done things differently, which is usually the buzz term, they would have. Phil kind of falls into that because a lot of how he acts is in general a lot about how his environment was. Am I saying his parents were complete assholes? No, not at all. Am I saying Phil was necessarily a mistake? Well, Phil's a mistake in more ways than one. He may have actually had a better chance on a bare sheet drying, quoting Loaded Lux. But I wouldn't go as far as calling him a mistake either. But he may have not necessarily have been planned. He may have been a much larger burden on his parents than he is now. And I know he's definitely a burden on his parents now. So in turn, from what he's seen from his parents, this is just a theory, of course, and what he perceives as the struggle or some of the ins and outs of a marriage, he may have looked at that and been like, well, I don't want any of that. I don't want to deal with the stress. I don't want to have to come home and have a kid running around and this, that, and the third. Where most of us are looking forward to parenthood, Phil is too selfish of an individual. He is very much too greedy. And so, do you ever see him looking out for anybody who isn't himself if it doesn't benefit him? No. So kids would be a deficit to someone like Phil Burnell. Kids would definitely be a deficit. So I'm not surprised when he brings up his examples of midlife crisis, of what a midlife crisis might be, because that's how he interprets it. But that also tells me how little life experience that he has. But then again, the guy didn't move out until he was, what, 26, 27? There's nothing wrong with that. Most people stay home longer just so they can get their money up. But then outside of that, he basically spent his money on shit he didn't need. He acquired a shitload of debt. He went off and tried to basically ball like a rock star. And if it wasn't for YouTube, yeah, he might be in a desk job that he's... I don't even know if I could ever say he's overqualified for anything, but he might very well have been stuck in a desk job. You know what I'm saying? Never being able to move up because he doesn't show the motivation. He doesn't show the persistence. And he, to be honest with you, is that type of guy in the office who has the cuticle like right in the middle or some shit, who's never going to get that desk, off his own office. He's always going to talk about that corner office that's fucking huge and how it should be his, and Robert shouldn't have had this, and this guy shouldn't have had that, and John shouldn't have had this, and James shouldn't have had that. He'll always go off on these silly little rants. Chris is sleeping his way to the top and whatever, and no one's ever going to appreciate me or see my greatness because I'm stuck here with the rest of you assholes. He's going to be that guy. He'd be that guy for the rest of his life if it wasn't for YouTube. So even though he ended up getting himself out of the debt from, as in his quotes, his previous life, going to all these tournaments on credit cards and this, that, and the third, he screwed himself even more later on. How do you get yourself in a shitload of debt and then get out and then acquire even more debt? You know what I'm saying? With no plan. Like he didn't learn anything the first time around. Phil is in a midlife crisis. Kind of. He's certainly in a crisis, if you will, financial crisis. But in truth, you could say he's in a midlife dilemma. He's 36. He'll be 40 in a couple of years. And what does he have to show for it? You know what I'm saying? He has no money in the bank, allegedly. Some people say he might have a nice little nest egg put somewhere. He could, possibly. But let's just say he has no money put away, at least as far as we know of. He has no investments anywhere. He doesn't have an IRA. He doesn't have a Roth. He doesn't have a 401k. He doesn't have a plan. He barely has soap. He lives in a house that's falling apart that he really can't afford. He's living with a roommate, not a soulmate. He eats shit food. He's probably in shit health. He can't even perform as it pertains to the games, let alone what Cat's catching in the bedroom or lack thereof. He's about as close to a mental breakdown as anybody. And in a lot of ways, you can give him a lot of respect because it is his mental strength that kind of keeps him above it. But the sad thing is he has no fortitude. So that's a thing, to be honest. And because of that, he doesn't have any character. And because he doesn't have any character, there isn't any more depth outside of what he tries to manufacture, which isn't much. Even Wings, despite his idiocies, I just made that up, he has some depth to him in some way, shape, or form. And so look out for that Wings video coming up soon. But, I mean, Phil is just Phil. And he knows everybody wants to watch him fail. He knows it. And even within the small demographic of people who want to see him rise above, if you will, he can't do it. He's not capable of it. He's not. He just doesn't have it in him. He would rather be risen up than rise up on his own. Then he's not a man. He's a child. The only difference is a child doesn't know any better. Phil does. Dspnews.
But anyway, those are the kind of people who have a midlife crisis. I don't think I'm ever going to be in that situation. But that's what I mean. Like, are there things? Does this suck that financially I'm in such a bad situation? Yes, it does. Absolutely. But outside of that, I love my job. I love, I'm with a girl who I love. I live with her for a year now. We've had a great life together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of good things in my life. I wouldn't have a midlife crisis because there's nothing to really to get out of except trying to get out of the goddamn debt I'm in. That's about it. So, Poofs or just Judy said, right, Phil, you may have made mistakes, but you own them and you haven't shirked any responsibilities. And that's the thing, like, people who have a midlife crisis, like I said, they really want to go back to their era. Oh, when I was in my 20s, I could do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to worry about my kids or my wife or anything. That's not how my life is. Like, I'm doing what I love. You know what I mean? Like, I love gaming. I love having interactions with you guys every day. I love this. So, it doesn't bother me that I have to work a lot. You know what I mean? Sure, would I like more time with Kat? Would I like more time to myself? Absolutely. But it doesn't bother me that I have to be here so much because I love what I do. So why would I have a midlife crisis? You know?
Okay, so let's approach that. One, I love what I do. Yet you bitch about every game that you play. Every competitive game that you're in, you have an excuse for all of your faults and downfalls. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's problem. It's always someone else trying to cheat you out of anything and everything, and it's never you. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of love to me, man, to be honest with you. As it pertains to you owning to your mistakes, no, you don't. That's a goddamn lie if I've ever heard one. And trust me, excuse me, in my time that I haven't been doing videos and just watching older stuff, I've heard you shark your way out of a bunch of shit. Can't wait to call all that out. It's just sad that it's going to have to be on a whole nother channel. In any case, you've avoided quite a bit. I mean, you've done it terribly, and at the end of the day, someone else is always going to win, who's not you. But you're certainly not that. You're certainly not the pinnacle or whatnot, or the poster boy of acceptance of one's own failures or shortcomings. That's not you. So let's go ahead and not delude ourselves anymore about that. As it pertains to, yet again, if you wish you could spend more time with Kat, if that was really the case, you do it. There is no reason why, Phil, that you need to be streaming for 5 days. You streaming for 5 days and you streaming for 6 days in the long run doesn't really have any more of effect. If anything else, you're better off only streaming 4 days, streaming earlier, and starting your first stream earlier, I should say, ending the last stream later, right? Well, actually ending the last stream earlier, I should say. And if things are going really well, and the fact that people are engaged and are engaged and are entrenched in what you're doing, then you can extend it. Okay, guys, the contributions are doing really well right now. You know, the game is running real good right now. I'm not having a problem with the internet. No one's trying to stream snipe me or nothing like that. And like I said, we're doing okay with contributions and everything. I'll run an extra half hour for you guys, and we'll see how it plays out. And if the contributions keep going, and if I still feel up to it, we'll keep it moving. You could do that. Sometimes he does, to be honest with you. But you could do that. But see, here's the thing. You're going to have to make some changes. Like, for one, you need to stop drinking energy drinks because you're not doing anything to burn it off. So it's just kind of just sitting there, which is only going to make it worse. And weren't you supposed to be giving up energy drinks, or at least carbonated drinks, for a while? Or caffeine in general? We saw how long that lasted, all but a week, if anything else. So that was a waste. You might want to go out and get yourself some exercise. And to be honest with you, if you only streamed for 4 days and took 3 days off, not only is that more time with Kat, but that's more time for you to focus on some of the things that are important to you, right, Phil? Like your health, allegedly. Because you're so sick, because you work so hard, and so on and so forth. If you funneled the fan base, if you funneled your fan base into these 3 or 4 selective days, let's say 4 or 5 selective days, you might get the most out of it, and you'll be able to have more time to spend with Kat. Because remember, Phil, the one day that you have off, you guys go off and run errands all day, and that's it. That's not really spending time. You're going to lose her to Jim at the gym, just like how you lost Panda to Tyrone. And it's going to be funny either which way. You don't have anything really to strive for outside of preserving what little that you have, which isn't much. But, you know, we'll see. Let's continue.
Fedoras Judy, so I see what you're saying. You're always on the streaming grind to make ends meet. You're always hungry in a way. You don't have time to get bored and restless. Right. And the other thing is, People get tired with their jobs and their lives because, man, every day I got to wake up and take my kids to school. Every day I got to wake up and go to that same fucking job and do the same thing. I don't have that. Like, every day I wake up, I get to play a different game. Every day we do different stuff. Tonight I'm doing Black Ops 4. BlackOut. Tomorrow I'm doing multiplayer. 2 completely different things, right? Playing Smash. Playing Minecraft. Playing Kingdom Hearts. Dark Soul. It's so different. And gaming is such a diverse world right now. Such a diverse thing that it's hard for me to get bored with it. You know what I mean?
Wait a second. Didn't you say you were getting bored of Kingdom Hearts? And then weren't you saying that you were getting bored of multiplayer? And didn't you say that you were going to back off of BlackOut unless you needed it to fill a time slot or you were trying to have it for like a chill stream? I mean, I could be wrong on some of the details, but I'm not wrong on all of them. And is this playing Dark Souls for like the 4th time or what, 5th time or whatever the fuck it is? I mean, there's not... I guess it's just him trying to legitimize this as a job. And it's not. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not a job. And the reason why I say it's not a job, to be honest, for any of those out there who are listening to this, who are inspired to be professional Let's Players or stream, the reason why it's not a job is because Phil depends on his fan base to give him money. More so than what Twitch or YouTube respectfully pay him. That's really what he comes to work for, is to beg for money. More than actually making it. It makes one wonder if he actually focused on the game. Try to focus on playing it well as he can, I should say. Because it's not like his capabilities are that high. Maybe, just maybe, out of general appreciation for you focusing on something outside of the goddamn chat, maybe people would actually contribute to you more. But since you don't, and you basically have to keep gout eyes lasered locked on that chat at all times, it just seems more of an annoyance. And all that stuff bleeds into the YouTube video, which are jokes to say the very least. So when Phil cries about you guys, oh, that's another thing too. Phil told the South Goutopia, YouTube, to step their shit back up. And them watching YouTube videos is no longer enough. Oh, wow. Maybe, Phil, you should have not abandoned, quote unquote, Patreon early on and kept pushing that into the routine, and maybe, just maybe, you'd be all right. I mean, granted, though, ladies and gentlemen, he's still getting, what, $600 to $800 for free each month? I mean, he can't complain about much, but it's Phil, so of course he will. I don't know. I don't know. I'm starting to... I think someone has that pan heating up a little bit. Let's continue.
Yeah, and it's funny because Poopster just said, I'm jealous you get to do what you love. Probably like 1 in 100 people get to do that. And the thing is, unlike a lot of people, I never planned for it. This was something 100% fell in my lap. It was never something that I ever intended on doing. I never planned on it. I never,
Now, before he gets into this bullshit, obviously, I don't have any proof of it. I don't know if anybody really does. But some of you in the comment section, more often than not, that I'm actually giving you guys credit for, and my apologies for that, have said, especially someone recently had pointed out that one of the reasons why Phil lost his office position was because of YouTube. So this whole thing about, oh, it fell into my lap and I was one of the lucky few, right time, right place, so on and so forth, it's starting to really kind of come across as he was willing to gamble an actual stable paycheck to do YouTube. So when it flopped the first time because of fraudulent acts on Phil's part, because Phil is a fraud, and he had to go to Blip, he held on to Blip for as long as he could until he fucked that up, a whole month and a half. Good job there. And then came back to YouTube, was fortunate enough that he could actually monetize his videos or his gaming videos, and then get himself over, then suck off Hutch for a job, and then get into Machinima. I don't want to say Phil has enough foresight to know everything was going to fall in line like that. So it has to be the luck of the pig. It has to be devil's luck that he kind of just fell into position. And even though, and I understand that it's a bit of a stretch for a lot of people to believe that Phil would actually quit his job to try to do YouTube, it's very possible that's what the case was. And why not? He had enough of a library at that time, as well as the enough followers or enough viewership, there's the word I'm looking for, to at least get a pretty good foot in, and especially with the frequency of what he was uploading. So he did have some advantages on his side at that time. But still, it's still quite a risk, though, to go ahead and get yourself fired from your job and try to do YouTube. Just something for you guys to marinate on. Dspnews.
Work toward it. It was just, man, I had an office job that I had intended I was going to work for probably for the rest of my damn life. And this just happened to be a hobby that I started that took off.
Now, let me cut in on that. For all of you guys who have had jobs in the past, yeah? Nobody ever looks at one job and thinks they're going to have it forever. If you're doing that, unless it's a job that you really love, with not that it has to be in your field that you went to school or tech school for, but just something that you love to do, unless it's that, you should never be looking, you should never just have a job just to settle. You should never do that. And even when you have your dream job, yeah? Or your dream career, yeah? You should always be considering on, well, one day, maybe I can start my own business and I can do all this for myself. I could be my own boss. And I could employ other talent and so on and so forth, as most people do. So for Phil to sit there and think, oh, I'm going to be stuck in this job and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, tells me, as it should tell some of you, his lack of foresight, his lack of creativity, his lack of inspiration in itself. He's someone who he grabs onto something and he just holds on to it for as long as he can until it leaves him. His family, to some extent, his friends, his relationships, these are all examples of it. His viewership in a lot of ways, these are all examples of it. It's examples of someone who's too scared, and I don't use that loosely, who's too scared to go off and actually take a risk and try to do something. Now, I understand that some of you might think that's that counters the point that I made previously about him quitting his job, or not quitting his job, but him risking a steady paycheck to start YouTube. I understand how you guys would see that as a bit of a confliction, but humor me for just a second. Because of that one gamble and how he stumbled over it, over the AdSense, over Blip, and then having to basically whore up to get himself into a comfortable position, you could kind of see why he's been reserved from here on out. And you could see why when his back is against the wall, he'll grab at everything and whatnot and just see whatever sticks, no matter how bad it is. For example, going over the Machinima video, his story about how Machinima went. It was disgusting to hear that. He was going to literally, as it pertains to Laveria or Fatabi, whatever they called it, okay, real quick. So the contract basically was poorly written, was poorly structured, there was things missing, so on and so forth. Phil was still going to go off that contract, though, because they promised him the managed partnership. So let's say this. Let's reword that. If, despite how messed up that contract was, despite the fact that vital pieces of information were not on that contract, if they still came through and gave him that managed partnership, he would overlook all that because he had a way of getting out of the contract later on down the line. But as long as they gave him the managed partnership, he was willing to overlook everything else. Now, if you go back to that story, and Tevin's pointed out in his video too, it's been a while since I've watched it, but I need to go back and watch it. It wasn't just the managed partnership that he wanted, because part of the initial deal, the initial offer that they had presented to Phil is all those Detractor videos out there that are on you, Phil. We're going to go ahead and claim all that for you. So you're going to start actually getting money off that too. Now, Phil lies and says that, oh, that's not what I wanted. That wasn't what I wanted. Oh, yes, it is what you wanted. He wanted to be able to get money off Disney again. He wanted to get, or not Disney, Nintendo. He wanted to get money off Nintendo. He wanted all of his old playthroughs and everything to be protected. And more importantly, he wanted to cash in a way that he never could. He wanted to cash in on all those videos out there that were popular. He wanted all that. And this was his one opportunity to do it, which makes me believe that at one time or another, he tried to do that same thing with Machinima, and Machinima couldn't do it. Or they didn't want to do it. Whatever the case. Well, that's where fair use and all that shit comes into play. So if he could find a company that'd be willing to do it, he was going to run with it. Greed. It's greed. Greed is massively strong. And there's certainly no self-control there. So that right there, I think is, thank you for humoring me for this amount of time, is one of the telltale factors on why Phil Burnell is where Phil Burnell is now. And despite all of the help and support from not only his own fan base, but from also other detractors and so on and so forth, he's still not going to be willing to do it. He's just too scared. He's way too scared. He's way too paranoid now, too. You know what I mean? That's why he needs to have this select few. That's why Swaggins can sit there. I thought Swaggins was going to grow some balls, but that's why Swaggins did what he did, and then Swaggins throws him a bunch of money behind the scenes, as you do with a good hoe. Because at the end of the day, Swaggins knows what he's doing. I don't condone it. Well, I wouldn't say condone it. I just think it's petty. It's kind of pathetic, actually, that you have to pay for power. I mean, if you're going to do that, save your money for political office or something. Don't waste that shit on fucking DarkSydePhil. Don't waste it on Gout. But whatever. But the thing is about Swaggins is, and I'll talk about that when we get to that video, Swaggins knew exactly what he was going to do to get himself out of that problem. He was going to get behind the scenes. He throws Phil some money. He lets Phil hear what Phil wants to hear. And then he's back in the position, no problem. And Swaggins will do it again, more than likely. Everybody's like, oh, Swaggins going to become a detractor. Nah. Swaggins put too much money, if nothing else. Swaggins has put way too much money into what he has. There's no reason to walk away from it. He can try to straddle both sides of the fence, but he's put too much money down. And Phil knows it. So there's kind of no point in doing that. And then, and more importantly, who knows what Swaggins actually knows? The last thing they need him doing is talking to somebody like Bill Purnell or Tex or any of them dudes and letting all that, or Dragon, DSP Archives now, but they used to go by Dragon Killer, or going to one of them and spilling the beans. Nah, Phil doesn't want that. Not at all. And like I said, who was that guy that recently ended up getting kicked out? Was it Third Eye the Third, I think? Who was doing the fan art, and he ended up getting expelled for whatever reason. Maybe he's back, maybe he's not. Unlike Third Eye the Third, like I said, Swaggins has just invested way too much money financially. He's invested way too much into Phil. So, it is what it is. But then, yet again, that is another example of how much control that someone can have on Phil. You know what I'm saying? Because if you think about it, by holding Phil's purse strings, you hold everything else. And the sad part, ladies and gentlemen, is there really isn't anything else. DSP News.
And ended up being there at a time when it was able to be done as a job, you know? I was in one of the lucky groups, the lucky few, right time, right place, and the right person for it, because I'm a hard-ass worker, and I worked my butt off doing it for years and years and years, to the point where now, even if I change, I have to go to Twitch, I have to go to YouTube, I have to go to another site, I have to do this, do that. It seems like I could still survive, because I have a fan base that loves what I do, and they want to follow me and support me no matter where I go, you know?
Alright, first things first. One, you were one of those select few. The funny thing is about that select few that you're a part of, Phil, despite the 2 or 3 different entities that have recently kind of packed it all up. Someone like a Maximilian, Rad Brad, some of those guys that have also been around your time, Phil, that you know, you've name dropped them. Those guys are either about to hit 1 million or in the multi-millions when it comes to subscribers. These are men who don't talk about money. If anything, they bring in way too much money. And I know it's kind of crazy to say too much money, but you know what I mean. They bring in a whole lot of guap, a whole lot of bread, a whole lot of cheddar, a whole lot of chicken. So those guys aren't hurting. Even when with little setbacks like Max being having to leave his MCN, he goes to YouTube, everything gets cleaned up almost as quickly as it got messy, or as it started to get messy, I should say. And he's fine. He's back on track. I just watched him a couple of days ago during his Resident Evil 2 hardcore run with Leon. He was killing it with donations and subs and shit. There's no complaints over there. Not with the money he's making and whatnot. But look at Phil. Phil and both, I don't know if Rad Brad is actually on Twitch, but I know he does fine with his YouTube videos or whatnot. But look at those two guys pulling in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views daily. You know what I'm saying? And look at Phil. YouTube videos barely crack 1,000 and whatnot. Certainly not cracking 2,000, not cracking 4, not cracking 5. He's on Twitch. Well, let's take a look here. Current sub count is at 503, dropping all the way down from what, 1,800 less than a month ago. Let's see here. Top cheer 500, top tip $1, tip goal 64 out of 200. Seems kind of pathetic to me, even as it pertains to 2017. Well, 2018 numbers. 2017 it was a lot larger. There was a whole lot more money up there. And yet, look at where they're at and look at where you're at. And you guys started up around the same time. Look at what happened to people who are really passionate about what they do and who really wanted to strive to not just put out an entertaining product, not only to have a vision in some way, shape, or form, but were willing to do what it took to pursue that and to grasp it. And then look at what Phil Burnell did, just spamming the website. And he calling that hard work. I worked my ass off. I don't think anybody around here acts for pork butt. So, with that being said, who exactly are you trying to impress? The 300 or 400 kids that are on stream right now? And that's it? Watching you camp in bathrooms because you're not man enough to do anything else? Just saying? Just being honest? You know, just putting it out there for everybody to see. You didn't really set the world on fire, Phil. Not even the gaming world. You were taken as a joke, and anybody who wanted to press you, you backed off and you cried about it, more than likely for weeks. When anybody tried to press you in your FGC days, you squirmed off into a corner, and other men who didn't have anything to do with any of that stepped in for you. Even former adversaries had to step into position for you to work shit out. You weren't even man enough to stand on your own 2 feet. You curdled up into the corner like a bitch. And now you're sitting there preaching to 300 or 400 kids who most of them know better, and the other ones still want to believe. They want to believe. I thought they had religion for stuff like that. I don't know. Dspnews.
Relocation to indicated safe zone is advised.
It's pretty damn crazy when you think about, I've been doing this for 11 years now, and basically for 3 of those years it was a hobby. And, you know, then I started doing it for a living in 2011. And when you really think about doing this, I have 3 fucking sites. When you think about doing this, that I have outlasted so many people who had every intention that this is what they wanted to do, and they tried to do it, and for whatever reason they just couldn't do it, couldn't make it happen. I've outlasted companies, giant corporations and companies that I've worked with and partnered with over the years.
Now, before I let him finish the statement, I don't want to come across as unfair. You know what? Actually, let's let the Golden Gout go ahead and finish his point.
Just don't exist anymore, and I do. I mean, that's just insane. That's absolutely insane. Oh, look, I got a sniper rifle. Let's see here. Ultra City did 100
Okay, so let's think about what he just said there. Like I said, we'll address that when those videos come about. Because if I can recover them, then I don't want to have to say the same shit twice. Though I don't mind. Okay, so longevity. But that's not what he's actually talking about. That's not his main point. His main point is outlasting. Only because... okay, sorry. Let's approach this. Okay, so his big thing now is all those big companies that were out there that were making millions and millions of dollars, I outlasted them because they're no longer around anymore. I'm the man. All those other content creators who had full intent to do this for a living couldn't do it, and they're gone now, and I'm the man. First things first. One, every company has to go through some transitions, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, they made way more money than you could ever have imagined, and despite whatever shortcomings that had happened to them in the end, those companies actually employed people, and they actually put other people in position that have outlasted them. So in turn, whether the company meant to do that or not, their influence and then what time that they had on the platform made the way for other people to continue doing this in the long term. You can't beat that, Phil. So we can fuck on with all that bullshit about companies. Let's talk about some of these other content creators. You, Phil, don't watch other, and didn't really watch any of those other content creators unless they sneak dissed you, or unless you were mad about the amount of views that they were getting because you thought that should have been your views. Even though they put way more time, way more effort, and had way more creativity and had a vision for what they wanted to do moving forward. Now, for whatever reason why what all these different entities ended up having to leave or ended up breaking up or whatever the case may be, I'm confident they're all in a much better financial position than you are. Not just that, I also know for sure that all of them, from a reputation standpoint, from a business opportunity standpoint, are in a much better position than you'll also ever be. At the end of the day, Phil, you're going to have to sit there spending the rest of your life, as long as someone allows you to. That's the key point of that, ladies and gentlemen. As long as somebody allows him to sit there on that love seat and beg for money. That's always going to be your occupation moving forward, no matter what. All of these individuals, despite the breakups, having to close down channels, this, that, and the third, they can always go somewhere else, and they can always make something else happen for them. They can do that. You can't. So in truth, it's not really, I should say, you're there now. Sorry, hit the mic. You're there now because you were able to outlast them and you're so much better than them and this, that, and the third. You had no choice. You had no choice. So if you're really hanging your hat on the fact that I'm here and they're not, and that shows that I'm meant to be here, whatever it takes to get one hoof in front of the other, whatever it takes you to roll out of your pig pen at night or in the morning or mid-afternoon, whatever it helps you go to sleep knowing that your soulmate, air quotes, is getting plowed by another man, just like your childhood slave was once getting plowed, still getting plowed out by a better man. Whatever it takes for you to make yourself feel better so you can get that much sleep at night, no matter how much gin you have to intake for you to make all the pain go away from you missing out on your friends and all that shit back in Connecticut because you weren't man enough to apologize for whatever the situation was, whatever it takes for you to feel better about yourself in that very moment, go ahead and have it. Do what you got to do. Dr. Feelgood, make it happen for yourself. But you're going to have to sober up eventually. And you're going to have to come to the realization that this is failure. And you're not really going to escape it. You can go ahead and try to shine the turd all you want. It's still shit. And you can't escape that. And I know that might sound harsh to a lot of you. But if he had a similar type of approach to what I'm doing now, over there in Central Goutopia, things might be a little bit better for him. You can't go through life having people kiss your ass and make you believe your own lie that is never your fault, you never did anything wrong, and think you're going to be okay. It doesn't work that way. The sooner he realizes that, the better off he'll be. But, sadly, he may be too far gone. I'll let you guys determine that. Dspnews.
Do you feel as though you aren't growing enough as a content producer? Feel as focusing on Twitch so regularly will harm you? No, because the thing is, I used to be one kind of content producer. All right, I did. I was the YouTuber, and the quintessential.
You still are.
YouTuber is someone who just strives to make YouTube videos that are for a digestible amount, a certain kind of content. And that I completely changed who I am. I'm so different now than the person.
So then you admit that you weren't out to make quality content. You just wanted to put whatever was out there, and if they took it, they took it, and if they didn't, they didn't. Okay. I might be reaching, but all right. I'll bite on this. I've never had teriyaki spam before.
Used to be when I used to be only doing stuff for YouTube. And I'm okay with that. Like, you may think, oh, it's hurting you because you're only doing the same thing. But it's the thing, like a Twitch content producer has to focus on doing things a certain way.
Producer! Oh. Producer! Oh. If that's the case, Phil, then as it pertains to Cat and as it pertains to Panda, I've certainly produced quite a bit on the casting couch. Just saying. Holla at your boy. Tell me what your life's like.
Having interactivity with their audience and doing fun interactive events and things like that. And that's what I've been doing. You know what I mean? I just found level 2 armor, which is very sweet.
And so has Jim and Tyrone. Just don't want to leave my homies out of that. Ain't no fun if the homies don't get none.
No, I don't think that streaming so much and being a streamer like this hurts me at all. I think it makes me a different kind of content creator, and I'm going to continue. I've been doing this for 2 years now, where I've been doing the the interaction-focused kind of content creator. And even though it's funny, because you may look at YouTube and say, man, your YouTube kind of fell off, you know, it's not very popular anymore. And you're absolutely right, I'll agree there. But that's because of many reasons. Number one, it's because a lot more people now check me out on stream. Number two, it's because YouTube has fallen apart and it's become a toxic piece of shit that a lot of people don't want to deal with anymore. Number three, my videos are much longer. So you say, oh, you have many less views. You're right, but that's because I'm uploading like 1/5 of the amount of videos I used to. So of course my views are way down. You know what I mean? All these things go hand in hand. And like I said, at one point I was all in for being a YouTuber. And then when I saw what was happening on YouTube, revenue was falling apart. The website was toxic as shit.
Supply drop incoming.
I knew I had to make a change. And so, no, I don't feel that being like an all-in YouTube guy, or excuse me, all-in Twitch guy, not caring about YouTube is hurting me at all. I think in the long run, it's actually going to help me. It's actually building up, in my opinion, actually a more dedicated fan base than maybe I even had before. Because before it was kind of like people were a little bit...
Okay, this is starting to get egregious. All right, so first things first, ladies and gentlemen. What did he have? Like 186,000 people on YouTube following or that are subscribed to him? A little more, a little less? What does he have? Like 60,000, maybe 70,000 followers on Twitch, but yet he only has 503 subs currently, or at least at the time that I'm recording this. I don't see a whole lot of transition, to be honest. And in truth, the guy was right. All you did was move from one very stagnant way of doing things to another. That's it. All you did was take the YouTube premise and moved it over to Twitch. That's it. Your interaction bullshit is just that, bullshit. You don't need a face cam, Phil. I'm sorry. You don't bring anything to this. You know what I'm saying? That whole 90-degree angle with trying to scratch that bald spot or on your chin, I don't get it. You going bald is just funny. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, shaving a pig I thought would be more entertaining, but maybe watching the pig go bald might be even better. The stupid little knickknacks that you have over there, your little mascots and whatnot, children's entertainer type shit. Good for you on that one. What else? All the rage, all the bullshit and everything like that, you could do all that without the face cam. So that doesn't add anything. As it pertains to the whole interactive streamer, I still don't think you understand what that means. Actually, I'm pretty confident you don't. If you actually watched your YouTube videos instead of just clicking on them so you could get that quick and easy ad revenue, as I know you do, you might realize that your YouTube videos are shit. Don't get me wrong, your YouTube videos always were shit, but they're definitely shit now. To be honest. All that complaining, all that dead air, what do they call it? They call it that Tonka dead air, whatever it is. A lot of that is in your YouTube videos. I'd say easily 60% of them are just full of dead air. By far. You're making it a whole lot easier for this is how you don't play community for sure. But it's stagnant. It's stagnant to shit. And there's no real avoiding that. And what happens when Twitch ends up going through a dry spot or goes into a situation? Then what are you going to do? YouTube's just an archive at that point. So I'm sorry, Piggy, you can't go back there. Then what? What are other options that do you have? You think that that Twitch partnership is going to protect you when shit really hits the fan? Twitch's ass is already being held over the fire. There are people getting banned or getting suspended, I should say, are getting suspended who were at one time most people considered untouchable. Eventually, shit rolls downhill, Phil, and you're going to be right there at the bottom to catch it, mouth wide open. And you're still not doing anything to prepare. You saw how YouTube fell apart, and yet Twitch could happen to Twitch one day. And I feel like you're not doing anything to prepare. And because of that, When the fall comes, it's going to come hard. When it rains, it pours. Oh well. I'll be there with the umbrella. Kenny will have the video camera, and Kevin will be handing me the mic, and we'll report it, because that's what we do here. Dspnews.
Fickle, if I weren't playing a certain kind of game, right? They didn't care. They wanted to always see the same kind of game and shit. Now, it's a lot different. Where now I can play different kinds of games, people will still come out and support me, which is awesome. Fedoras said, I just realized that if you ever have to change platforms that you stream on, you still have job security because your job security is your fan base, not where you stream. You're right. It's not like, oh, I could be, oh my God, if something ever goes wrong between me and Twitch, which I hope it doesn't. I like being on Twitch. I do think Twitch is the best place to stream. I really believe that. But if anything ever went wrong, I could try somewhere else, you know?
That's funny. Didn't you say the same thing about Machinima? Didn't you say the same thing about Curse? Didn't you say the same thing about YouTube in general? And I think, to be honest, you're actually missing the point of this guy's question, but let me give you the benefit of the doubt first before that happens.
And I may still be all right. You're absolutely right. Let's see. Eternal Napalm did 100-bit cheers.
Okay, so the way I look at that question, right? And don't be wrong, I'm not trying to make a meta out of it or anything, is that it's your fan base, or crowdfunding, if you will, is really going to be your saving grace. That's the way I look at it. And that's more than likely how it's going to work. I don't know if that's how the individual interpreted it, or meant for it to be interpreted, I should say. But that's what I'm really thinking. Because, Phil, you've had a problem just having people transition from channel to channel. You failed even more having them go from platform to platform. If you have to go to a whole nother platform, the people that you have currently watching you will get cut in half. If not even further. This don't look good, Phil. Like, all the warning signs are here. Like, all the warning signs are here. Ladies and gentlemen, and because some people ask me this shit on Twitter sometimes. How do you avoid the mistakes that Phil has made if you're going to start doing YouTube or Twitch? First thing is, have a part-time job. And some time management will have to be played in. If you do that, you'll be fine. Look at Tevin. Tevin works, and then he still does what he does, and shit works. He was doing that before he was really going through some of the longer streams and before that bullshit with Twitch and all that nonsense. A lot of people do that. You can do it. It's easy. It really is easy, to be honest with you. Phil's just a lazy piece of shit. But you can do it. That's the first thing. Second thing is have a plan. Have a plan with what you're going to do before the money actually comes into the picture. Because when the money gets there, there is no kind of really making any type of financial savvy moves or any moves in general after that. Because when money comes in, money changes the situation. And miscommunication leads to complications. So with that being said, you have to be able to transition almost on the fly. Versatility is going to be important. And that doesn't have to just be with YouTube or Twitch or anything. That just pertains to coming into money in general. That's just you changing from one job to another. Your finances are going to change a little bit, and you have to change with it. If you change with it as best as possible, then you can always have money stashed away for a rainy day, and you never have to worry about what happens if I lose my job tomorrow. It's going to suck, but you have enough money put away that you can ride the storm out. Phil doesn't have that. That's why Phil has his fan base. They're his money. They're the rainy day fund. They're the emergency fund. And Phil don't catch that. Or Phil may have and just chose not to spurg out. And the thing is it's dwindling. He's been chipping away at it day after day after day. There's not really going to be much left to grasp at. And it's not even I usually would say it's never too late to have a plan. And in some cases it's not, depending on what your circumstances are. But Phil is in deep. He's in very, very deep. And it's almost the equivalent of him being up the quicksand. I'd say he's probably up to where that bald spot is at on his chin. And the sand's continuing to rise. Or, in turn, or another way of looking at it, is he's continuing to sink. I don't know. Dspnews.
Back when you were in Street Fighter 2 tournaments and became the best Street Fighter 2 player in America, why do people try to disparage that achievement? You can't win if you don't compete. A couple reasons. Number one, people just didn't like me. They saw me as the upstart asshole, the outspoken person. I was always very anti-establishment. I did not like the organizers of many of the major tournaments in the country that were West Coast based because I felt that they were unfair and they favoritistically treated players. In particular, the organizers of EVO, I had a lot of issues with over the years, and continuously called them out for things that I felt that they did wrong. They didn't like that. I was a very, very big shit talker, and I will admit that. Like, I was a really, really fucking big shit talker to the point where, like, people hated me just because they knew I talked so much shit on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, they hated my guts because I would not keep my mouth shut. And I can understand that. To some extent, I can totally understand why that would be a case, why someone would dislike me. I don't know who slayed me. I don't even care. You know, I had a big fucking mouth. I did. And it got me into trouble because of the things I said and did back then. And I understand that, you know. It was, you know, I went to the West Coast talking a lot of shit about Marvel 2, thinking I was going to do Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I was going to do well. I entered the tournament, and what do I do well in? Super Turbo. Of all the games that I do well in, it's the game that I thought... I played that game as, like, a side game. I would go to tournaments to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2, okay? Because that was the game I loved, I thought I was going to be really good at. And then, fucking Super Turbo is the game that I almost win. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. So, I think what it was they basically, they didn't see me coming. I came out of nowhere as a good player that year.
Alright, let's stop with the piggy dick sucking. All right, let's quit all that shit for right now. All right, so let's talk bacon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk bacon bits for a minute. Anti-establishment. That, if you go back into the archives, if you can find them, of the you can, I think, into some of the SRK forums, because I had to look up some of this when Phil got accused of getting by Cloud, when he got accused by Cloud, not accused, but when Cloud messed up and said that Phil was ended up getting banned from EVO for the knife situation, which it wasn't Phil, by the way. I've already done a video on that. When you go back and look at the archives with Phil, he was basically taking shots at anything that was moving for the most part. And a lot of that West Coast shots he was taking, which is weird, by the way, because eventually he was going to have to go over there. So I don't know why he would do that, but whatever. He was throwing a lot of the shots at these dudes on the West Coast, and a lot of dudes were letting him pass. What Phil took, in my personal opinion, Phil took a lot of that kindness for weakness. He took a lot of these dudes being passive to him and taking it as just internet talk. Phil took that as a weakness and thought he could just hammer away at it. Now, Marvel 2. Whatever. Phil was never going to be good at Marvel 2. There was too many killers back then at that time who would have swept that ass. The only reason why, if I had to guess, why he did well at Super Turbo is because, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, that's the only game he plays is Street Fighter. He was never going to be good at Marvel, or he was never going to be great at Marvel. How good he was is debatable, if you even want to get into that. But when you think of some of the heavy hitters back in that time, I'm going to try to come off the dome just from what I remember. But you think guys like Sin, Gandhi, Duck Doe, you think of the dudes that had in the Midwest. You think of the dudes that were on his coast, on the East Coast. Your Justins, your Sanfords, your Smooth Vipers, your cats like, you know what I'm saying, your Flashes and guys like that. He wasn't gonna do that. Whatever Phil's doing at his locals is whatever he's doing at his locals. You get on a national level, he's food. He's food. He's merely there to be consumed for the immortals. He's nothing else than that. So, for him to sit there and say, I was going over there to really do some shit in Marvel 2, and then end up taking Super Turbo, kiss my ass on that bullshit. So, it's whatever that. As it pertains to his trash talk, Phil is just one of your typical guys who didn't know how to shut up. You're sitting here talking about this, that, and the third. You're sitting here bitching and complaining about shit that most of that stuff wasn't even concerning him anyway. If you see a lot of his posts, it's him kind of just jumping into conversations for no fucking reason. Almost being like, here, hey, I'm here, give me attention. It's kind of like, you know, your fucking kid who just doesn't know when to shut the hell up in some ways and whatnot. The only difference is sorry, Phil, I don't see the need to back smack an 11-year-old to make myself feel strong. That's kind of what it was with Phil. And the problem is people, you know, people will come at him with the banter, but after a while it gets boring. But Phil wants to keep pushing the narrative, He wanted to run around with his little tough guy Punisher bullshit, thinking that he's Billy Badass and he won't take everybody on. And just like on the East Coast, just like on the West Coast, damn sure like in the Midwest, you don't talk hot shit and don't expect someone to come get you. You know what I'm saying? Or at least someone to at least approach you on it. And Phil wasn't ready for that. And Phil ain't got no heart, so he wasn't going to fight either which way. It's your typical internet bullshit that ended up turning out into what we saw like with Tonka, for example. The only difference was is Phil showed up not thinking anybody wanted to fight him, and when he got pressed, he crumbled. Basically it. And someone picked his ass up to turn him into a nice graham cracker crust for their cheesecake. That's basically what happened to him. It is what it is. I'm glad you finally admitted, Phil, that you were getting in trouble, but for you to say that there was favoritism and shit, there's favoritism in probably everything. I think, personally, you just wanted to see what you wanted to see. I think you wanted to get a rise out of people, and you weren't ready for the consequences. Or you thought you were rolling deep, because you did say you rolled with a couple of people, and that can be verified, and you thought they'd have your back. The problem is a lot of them did. A lot of them did talk you out of a bad situation. But you should have still stood up, though. You should have still did that instead of cowering in the corner or behind somebody else. That's kind of what that is. As it pertains to your 4th place finish, ladies and gentlemen, it's the biggest joke of his life. You took a 4th place finish. You took a 4th place finish, right? And then had the nerve to say, I am the #1 ranked Super Turbo player. In a port that didn't mean a goddamn thing. Wasn't even worth the price of the disc it was written on. So then you end up showing up to I think it was either later on that night, so the big boys ended up coming to you and be like, all right, well, we got a cabinet ready. Let's come get this work. And you went ahead and you went over there. You got that smoke. You caught a bunch of hands. And you left with your tail in between your legs. Like a good bitch. That's kind of what happened. You know what I'm saying? Your tournament results, no one can take that away from you. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is with that. Your real skill level is nowhere even close to what you boast it to be. And people can prove that. So that's what ended up getting you. Phil is your typical, I have this one thing that I'm super good at, and instead of expanding on it, I'm just going to hold on to what little bit of glory that I had, and I'm going to move with it. Who holds on to a 4th place finish? You never won an Evo. You never won the dance. You know what I'm saying? On the biggest stage. You won some qualifiers. Good for you. No one can take that from you, but you never won the real dance. At all. You played a shitty port. You were able to get some wins on some really good name people because you played the port while they, most of them haven't admitted it, thought it wasn't going to be that big of a deal and they skated by. But then when you went up against people who were just generally smarter than you and better players than you, the 3 Japanese players who placed above you, you got swept up. Easy. Easy. A fly and chopsticks. No problem. No soup for you. All day they got you. You had nothing. Sorry, the no soup for you is Seinfeld reference. But whatever. You guys get my point. They caught you all day and flung you to the side. You weren't even worth the time. It was easy money for them. And you knew that. You knew it. So the only thing that you had was, oh well, I beat these guys. I beat these guys, and I took 4th place. They'll never take that away from you. You're right. They're not going to take that away from you. But then, when it was time for you to perform on cabinet, not this broken port on the PS1 or PS2 or whatever, not on console, let's just say that. When it was time for you to come to the arcade, when it was time for you to step to the arcade cabinet, you couldn't produce. You couldn't perform. I'm sure Panda has plenty of stories about that. You couldn't perform. And that's it. That's why you don't boast about it nearly as much anymore. You're right. The results are out there proving that you did something. Good for you. The problem is, it's not worthy of the effort that's coming behind it. That's why people laugh about it now, just like they laughed about it all those years ago. And the only person who gives a damn about it is you. And that, Phil, is truly, truly sad. Dspnews.
I was one of the few people who focused in and actually learned the version of the game, while a lot of people just completely ignored it and didn't want to play that version of the game. You know, in reality, what it is a lot of top players that year really disagreed with Evo's. Evo chose that year, for the very first year, that they wanted to do an all-console tournament. And everyone who had been playing Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo up to that point always... What the fuck? Since when is there a washboard in it? They actually changed some stuff. They must have patched the game. But anyway, up to that point, Super Turbo had always been played in an arcade cabinet, even through all the years... What the shit? Even through all the years that all the other games that got on console, Super Turbo had always been on arcade cabinet. And admittedly, I wanted it on arcade cabinet that year. I wanted to play the real version, the arcade version. And Evo said, no, we refuse. This year, we're doing everything on console. So either adapt to the PS1 version or don't bother coming, because, you know, that's what we're playing. And a lot of top players that year kind of were turned off by that and said, that's a bad attitude to have. We're the grassroots. We're the people who kept you popular all these years. And it's kind of messed up that you're abandoning us to do whatever you want or whatever. So I wasn't happy with the decision, but I said, whatever. And I learned the version. I practiced on that version of the game.
Now, let me step in. Now, this is where the snake in the grass type shit that makes Phil Burnell steps into play. So, all of this is going on SRK. People are talking about, hey, man, it's kind of messed up. This is going on. Hey, if you guys don't like it, you don't have to show up. This, that, and the third. And a lot of people didn't. A lot of top name players didn't show up and whatnot. Or if they did, they didn't compete. At least not in that. Phil, who's paying attention to all this, is thinking, this is my opportunity. This is my chance and whatnot. Because if all of my competition's kind of thinning out, if the herd is thinning out a little bit, I have a better chance of winning. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grind on this shitty port, and then he thought he was just going to go ahead and streamline his way through. Because he's on SRK every day. He knows what was going on. He knows what was being said. So he knows what competition isn't going to be there and what isn't. So in truth, he thought it was going to be easy until them Japanese players showed up. until roasted pig was on the menu. Then it became a problem. Then all of a sudden Phil wasn't ready. Then all of a sudden Phil's like, okay, well, if I can't take first, I can take second. Okay, well, I can at least try to compete for third. Oh, and you got fourth. And admittedly, it was somewhat of a bad idea doing it that year in the way that they did it. But, I mean, that was going to be the future of playing everything on console. So you kind of have to start somewhere. So I kind of understand. But with the tradition of Super Turbo, I can also understand why keeping it on cabinet for as long as possible makes sense. And then that goes back to the whole situation with the arcades over there, and people were willing to step up and bring, you know, cabinets and so on and so forth. We'll talk about that later on down the line. I found some interesting video footage of some beefs that were going on back in those days that for some of you guys who are in the FGC, you might like. Also, for some of the few people who asked, hey, you know, would you go over FGC news? I mean, Ernesto Lopez is probably your best bet, to be honest with you, or button check and whatnot. If you want me to go over a certain episode of it, though, let me know. Sure, I'll do it. You know, his videos are short, like 5 minutes or so, give or take, 7 minutes, I guess. So I'll definitely throw some time at it if there's something that you want to see. So I can do that. Just let me know. Here we go.
And learned the major difference, because the game had a lot of big differences between that version and the arcade version. I felt Vega was much better. I thought Old Sagat was much worse on that version. I thought Chun-Li also was kind of better in that version. So anyway, you know, I practiced on it, learned the ins and outs, and ended up almost winning the whole damn thing. I beat a ton of top players that year at EVO. I mean, I'm talking like a gauntlet. They purposely put me, because they knew I was a big shit talker. They purposely put me in a gauntlet of West Coast top players, and I beat all of them back to back. It was a gauntlet. I just win. And everyone's mouths dropped. They were like, how the fuck is this kid, you know, shit-talking kid winning? And that's why they didn't want to accept it, you know? This shit-talker, this upstart. How could he? How could he have actually beaten all of our pro players and done so fucking well? This is so ridiculous and unacceptable, and you know what I mean? I think I'm just gonna hide in here. Oh wait, never mind. Oh fuck. Well, I gotta run now. So, ever since then, they always wanted to discredit me and act like I was no good. What's funny is I continuously still did well at tournaments and placed, regardless of what version. Whether it was the arcade version, it was whatever the hot console version of Super Turbo was that year. For 3 straight years, I was either winning or placing in every tournament I entered. So, even though they all talk shit about me and tried to discredit my really high placing at EVO, they can't, because there were years of consistent tournament level placings that you can't discredit, you know?
Now, let me also cut in, because for integrity's sake, this should be brought up. He has actually beaten some rather notable players, to be honest. That also should not be, it should be stated, and it shouldn't be overlooked. He has some pretty notable wins. If you go ahead and look back during his run, he actually has beaten some pretty impressive players. He's also beaten Justin Wong a couple of times. He has a couple of wins over Justin. I don't think that can be taken from him. Yet again, he wasn't riding off that. He was riding off the fact that he had his 4th place finish, and it's just not good enough. You know what I mean? If you're only in the FGC to settle for something, then you probably don't really have a place to be there. You know what I'm saying? And to have that and believe he could hold that over the other American players' heads, believing that they would be forced to respect him off of that, is just, he was only being delusional. You know what I'm saying? He was only fooling himself. But he does have some wins over some very credible people. Sure, absolutely. Can't take that from him. So, there's always that. He can, and that's kind of what Phil has. Kind of like with the Escort Saga. He has the moral victory. But that's kind of it. It's only good for you. It doesn't matter to anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Because for all the people, I hate to kind of shit on him in the next breath, but for all the people that he's beaten, and like I say, he has beaten some notable people, he's been pounded out himself. More than he would rather admit. And sadly, this is where we separate the men from the piggies, ladies and gentlemen. Those people accept their losses. Yeah, he beat me. Phil has excuses for all of his losses. That right there kind of separates boys from the men, if you will. Dspnews.
In reality, a lot of those people to this day would probably say, yeah, Phil was good back then. But the other group of people, you got to realize, there's people who hate me on the internet, so they'll just pretend like the shit never happened. You know? They'll just like completely try to pretend like none of that happened. Oh, that's such a lie. That, you know, they'll try to make every excuse in the book to say that I was bad at everything I've ever done. So, Alexander Ross, yes, was I ever friends with Alex Valle? No, I was not. Had a couple interactions with him over the years, but never anything more than just a few minutes. I respect the guy for being a really well-known number one.
Let's step in for just a second. You kind of are shit at everything you do. You are. You're a terrible businessman, if you want to even call yourself that. You're a terrible gamer. You're a terrible Let's Player. You're a terrible boyfriend. You're a terrible kid. Or a son. You definitely must have been a terrible kid. You're just a terrible human being all about. You're one of the worst YouTubers. You're a joke as a streamer. You're a guinea pig for Twitch. Like, the only use that you really have is how people can take advantage of you. That kind of measures how useful you are. You don't even have any real control of your streams. Money does. And so those who have the money have control over you. And since you don't have any money, they're the ones that have control. You are kind of shit at everything you do and everything you touch. There's no denying that. Let's continue.
Really great player overall. Obviously one of the best in the country ever at Super Turbo. And other games, but it was really Super Turbo where he was the game that made him popular, and of course he was good at other stuff after that. And for, you know, currently being a tournament organizer and all of that, you know, well respected. But outside of that, I don't know much about the guy. Never really spent much time about him. I think I only had like a couple interactions with him over the years, barely anything worth mentioning. It's like I said, like when I was into Street Fighter heavily, there was a big East Coast West Coast thing where, like, if you were from the East Coast, you were all supported by all the East Coast players, But and then the West Coast would hate your guts or vice versa. It was so weird, this East Coast West Coast rivalry that used to exist. It was kind of like, I hate to say it, like the East Coast West Coast rivalry in rap. Remember there were East Coast rappers hated West Coast rappers and vice versa? It was kind of the same thing. It made no sense, but that's just how it was. Timbo Slice just cheered. He said, I see you feel the same about Frozen World and Kingdom Hearts 3. I think it was a boring world in the game. I thought it was put into it being big in recent years. Oh, absolutely. Number one, they wanted more Disney princesses in the game for basically girls to play the game. And number two, it's the most popular Disney movie of the past few years. I mean, there's nothing interesting about that world. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong. But that's not for like a fucking RPG action-based video game. What the fuck were they going to put in there? You know? They made you go up the mountain, you go down the mountain. You go up the mountain, you go down the mountain. You go up the mountain, you go down the mountain. You fight a fucking snowman. Wow, that was really great. No, I agree. The Frozen world was boring, man. Both Frozen and Tangled, shitty. Like, here's the thing. You might wonder, oh, well, how could Aladdin or Lion King or other ones like that fit in? Well, truth of the matter is, even though you don't think they would fit in, they actually fit in pretty decently if you do them right. Like, for example, I liked how when you did Aladdin, you actually fight Jafar and shit, right? Like, that's cool. So my question is, why is it in Kingdom Hearts you don't fight any of the Disney villains? Like, there's Disney villains in it, but you don't fight any of them. Instead, you just end up fighting, like, generic enemies controlled by the Heartless or whatever, or you fight Heartless themselves. It's pretty lame. Like, in Kingdom Hearts 1, you're fighting fucking Ursula, you're fighting Jafar, you're fighting all these bosses that are really sweet. And then, in Kingdom Hearts 3, you're just fighting, like, generic, crappy bosses. They're, like, really, like, El Generico-style boss. I'm like, man, they really didn't think very well here when they designed this stuff, right? And then they could have done a lot better in regards to the boss design. Like, seriously, Kingdom Hearts 1, one of the coolest things was being able to fight these cool versions of, like, the Disney villains as bosses in a fucking video game. You're like, wow, this is really neat. Now it's all very generic enemies in Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't know why they're like that. Like, today the boss I fought in Frozen had nothing to do with Frozen. It was like a fucking wolf with only its front legs. And it was like running around, spewing shit. It didn't make any sense. Like, what the fuck is this?
Supply drop incoming.
The other thing is they took they took all the Final Fantasy stuff out of Kingdom Hearts now. It's all gone. And a lot of people liked the Final Fantasy characters and references. It's all gone. They just completely removed.
Now, didn't he play the first two games? I know Panda messed up one of them, but he, like, yet again, I guess this kind of ties into the fact that he only plays games to get his quick buck and then he moves on. It doesn't have any real meaning, or there's no real sentimental value or anything outside of that. So that kind of proves that point. It's kind of sad, though, really. But whatever.
Almost for no reason. I don't know if they don't have the licensing or whatever, but it's really dumb that that's missing when that used to be a staple part of the series. Right, except the Moogle. The Moogle's in it. Just the Moogle is at the shop. Everything else was removed. See, some people in the stream chat are like, well, the Final Fantasy stuff sucked. And other people are like, nah, it was cool. I liked having, even though I didn't necessarily love the portrayal of the characters, I at least like having it in there. You know, Kingdom Hearts felt like the ultimate mashup of your favorite franchise. Disney shit with fucking Final Fantasy, with original characters. It really felt like something special. This just kind of feels like, oh, after 13 years, people just keep asking for it. So to get them to shut the fuck up, we're just going to basically make a version where it's like all the most latest movies combined with a couple classics, really not innovate at all. Make the combat way too dumbed down easy so that a child could beat it easily. See what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like very good to me. I thought Kingdom Hearts 3 would be much better. I think I actually liked 1 and 2 better than 3. 3 is just turning out to be kind of a disappointment for me. And it's funny because Gary Shiggles says it's a child's game. I would agree with you, except it's not. Because Kingdom Hearts 3 is 3. The third in a trilogy. The first game came out, what, 15 plus years ago? So you can't be a child and play this game. What, did you play the first game as a fucking embryo? You see what I mean? Unless this is the first game in the...
Why are you butthurt about that? It is a kid's game. I'm sorry. Phil, I'm sorry. That doesn't mean adults can't play it. It's just he's just stating facts. You know what I'm saying? But the funny thing is, Phil, that there are people who were kids when they started playing it, who are probably now adults, and they still know more about and understand the storyline more than you did. Granted, though, wasn't there a bunch of games in between? I remember talking to Dante Crisis, James the Lesser, Jackal's Lair. Shouts out to all those guys. I was actually talking to them about it. Oh, and G Money. And they all were talking about the different variations and so on and so forth. Phil didn't even play those games. So, yeah. Kingdom Hearts at its basis is still very much a kid's game. But that doesn't mean adults can't play it. So you getting defensive about that proves what now? Especially since you don't have a grasp on the story anyway? Or more importantly than that, you don't remember any of your other playthroughs. I mean, you probably remember the amount of money you made off of them, but nothing else outside of that. I don't know. Sounds like someone's getting their bacon all curled up for no reason.
The series that you're playing, in which case you'll know nothing. This really was a game made for the longtime fans, not for children. So that's a cop-out saying it's a children's game. It's not. It's a game for longtime fans of the franchise. I think ultimately what they did is they lost their way because they were thinking, we're going to make this the Disney game where all the girls are going to want to play it because Frozen is in it. Right? Or, oh, you know, Tangled and Frozen. Tell your little sister to buy Kingdom Hearts 3 and she can play the game and actually have this, like, cool interaction, you know, with the characters from the movie, relive the movies interactively, instead of focusing on making it a good RPG. That's kind of how I feel. Watch the spoilers. What spoilers? Well, the only thing I'm telling you is that basically you don't fight big Disney villains, which is very disappointing. Now, I'm not done with the game, but so far I fought 0 Disney villains in the game. That's fucking stupid. That's not a spoiler. That's something you want to know if you're going to buy the game, so you're not disappointed. It's not like I'm telling you critical plot points. Trust me,
Actually, isn't it a critical plot point by sorry. Isn't it a critical plot point by telling the viewers or whatnot, or telling people who haven't even watched your streams or any of your shitty YouTube videos yet that they're not going to encounter any of the villains in boss fights? Yeah, I think that's kind of important. I think that, I don't know if it's a make or break for people, but I think that's kind of important. You spazzing out over the previous question about it being a kiddie game is just stupid. I don't even know what you even gained off that. That was kind of just dumb, to be honest. And, ladies and gentlemen, this is someone who plays games for a living, right? And thinks he can go ahead and direct a game better than those who are actually doing it. But it's very easy to sit on your ass, right, and see everything in hindsight. I mean, he barely has enough vision to wipe his own ass, let alone having this guy design a game. Seems kind of egregious, to say the very least. Let's continue.
I wish I could tell you critical plot points, but I don't understand what the fuck's going on in that game. Nobody does. Oh, let's see. Golden Blizco just cheers.
I like that too. That was something that Tevin pointed out the other night, where everybody thinks the way Phil does. If Phil doesn't understand anything, no one understands anything. The world, when the way Phil describes the world is the way everybody sees the world. So if you don't see it the way Phil does, you're a mentally ill detractor, and you probably should have the white coats come get you. And that's where this thing's walking around. It's been going around for a while. Is Phil, like, is he autistic? And is he, like, does he have autism, or does he have, who knows? I don't really have a comment on any of that at the moment. I don't know what he has and what he don't. Is there something wrong with him? Yes. By far, there is something wrong with him. I couldn't tell you what. I can't give him a diagnosis or anything. He definitely has autism in some way. There's certainly something very wrong with him. Very, very wrong. And at times, right, especially if you're on Twitter, you can see why some detractors don't take the hits on him that they could and whatnot. Believe it or not. There's a lot of detractors who give him a lot of mercy. Believe it or not. Kiwi Farms don't. Kiwi Farms is all about that heat. But there are some detractors on Twitter who are willing to give him breaks, because it's I like to think of it as an exercise in human decency that Phil could never understand. I know that must seem kind of silly coming out of a detractor, but hear me out. I feel that you're seeing a subtle, but I think a very pronounced shift in how people perceive Phil from a mercy standpoint. Now, that whole nonsense that he lets us spew about, detractors come to him behind the scenes and say, oh, I used to do this or I used to do that, now I see the fault of my ways. I don't believe that for a second. That's just a bunch of self-masturbation that doesn't mean shit to me. But I do think there are people who kind of look at Phil Burnell and they're like, you know what? I'm going to let him slide on this one thing. I'll catch him next time. So I'm not saying that any detractor's given the game up. The hunt is still on. But I feel like they let him slide on stuff because sometimes there's just no sport when the pig is already injured. And especially when the pig injured itself. Sometimes there's just no sport in finishing it off. Sometimes it's better to let it limp away and just catch it another day. I don't know. Dspnews.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is like the new Star Wars films. It looks nice, but no real soul and passion. I kind of agree with you. It feels like a soulless game. Like, what is Kingdom Hearts? Oh, well, Kingdom Hearts is when you combine RPG elements with Disney. Okay, but then if you actually play Kingdom Hearts, wow, it's a robust combat system that evolved over the course of the series, and it's got this good, way to integrate the characters. So it's like, wow, you're really feeling like you're living in that vibrant Disney world. You interact with the characters, you become a part of their stories. In some cases, it's like a postscript to what happened in the movies. In some cases, it's an original plot. It's like unique and interesting. You'll fight the villains, and this one's like they didn't do any of that. They're just like, as long as it's just the game combined with an RPG, you're done. They was like, we're done, And I think they could have done a lot better. Especially if you took them 13 fucking years to make the game or whatever. You know what I mean? 13 years that this is what they put out. I think I'm very disappointed so far. Like, I was expecting a lot more from the game. And I'm pretty disappointed now that I'm almost done with it. Chimble Slice says, sadly, the more I play Kingdom Hearts 2, the more I feel like it was nothing more than fan service. People stopped talking. And they never really had plans to do it. It's the same battles. It's getting old and I'm only 5 worlds in. By the way, there's not that many worlds. Should mention that too. Like you say, oh, I'm only 5 worlds in. Dude, you're almost done. I think the game has like 6, 7 worlds. It's not that much. Like, it's pretty short of a game. Although, most people say, well, it's as long as the other ones. Yeah, but, again, waiting this long, you would expect better. You wouldn't expect it to be the same length as the other ones. You would expect you want more. Especially when you look at games recently, right? So, God of War redesigns itself from the ground up, becomes an amazing game from what it once was, Red Dead 2, way more advanced and way more long than Red Dead 1. Persona 5, holy shit. That game improved upon the previous ones and was long and everything. Kingdom Hearts 3, same length as the last ones. And not even...
here's another problem, too, that I've been meaning to point out, is the fact that when Phil looks at a game, if you guys have ever been there for the pre-stream for a new game, you'll always hear it. Oh, the game is projected to be about 40 hours. Oh, it's about 60 hours. Oh, this game's about to be about 20 hours. He looks at everything in just the time and length, and then he tries to equate that into money. That's it. So he doesn't even give a shit about the actual aesthetics. Oh, it wasn't long enough, so I couldn't profit off of it as much as I should be able to. 13 years and I can't even profit off of it for the next 6 months? That's bullshit. That's all it is. And does that sound like a gamer to you? It's not, obviously. But this is what he tries to project. And then has the nerve to chastise other people when he does it himself. Whatever. Let's continue.
It's good combat. It's like, huh? If anything, the one thing I think Kingdom Hearts is really good at is the graphics. I really do like the graphics of the game. Outside of that, I don't think it really does much. No,
Kingdom Hearts sounds like a 2018 version of you. If that's the case, Phil. Just saying. Obviously, I'm joking. Kingdom Hearts is definitely much better than 2018 Phil, but lazy is as lazy does.
Absolutely true that YouTube can find a reason to kick you off their site for any reason. That is correct. You could literally do nothing wrong, and YouTube could just want you off the site, and they could just take you off, and literally, if you go to court, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? The only way that you can get back at it if you could prove that.
Well, I mean, Phil, this is where people are starting to. Well, people have been proposing this for a while, where a bunch of people should come together, bring their money together, I should say, to go ahead and purchase their own servers, and then they can start their own websites, and then, you know, obviously do all that. Obviously, no one wants to put that type of money in, especially not just getting servers, but the upkeep and whatnot. As for the recent purge of people off YouTube, the reasons are definitely interesting. Are they valid? Not all of them. At least not all the reasons I've seen. Not to get completely just killed off the platform. That just doesn't make too much sense to me. Like, for example, one thing that I was watching recently was Vegan Gains. Sorry, he just had his whole channel just got blooped, and he just recently got it back though. But it got blooped because he had three guideline strikes, and he caught all of them in like the span of days. You know what I'm saying? And so people are kind of like, well, there's something wrong with the guideline system. The copyright strike system is still buggy, so on and so forth. There's a lot that's kind of wrong with the overall system. But what I find interesting is the amount of people who get hit.
Discrimination, like they completely unfairly treated you, or they treated one way favoritistically in a business sense while you got the shaft, then maybe. The problem is that some judge, it all depends, ultimately it depends on the knowledge of the judge when it comes to the internet and law. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. This company called Zombie Go Boom used to be a really popular YouTube channel, okay? They had a ridiculous amount of views, made tons of money, had an office, a staff. They were that popular. And when YouTube started their rampant demonetization in early 2017, claiming that certain things were not ad-friendly anymore, their entire channel got demonetized. They felt that every single comedy-style video on their channel was considered not suitable for viewers, for advertisements. And so their entire business went out of business. Alright? They sued YouTube and said, this is bullshit. Because you started demonetizing our stuff without any justification. You can't prove, you know, it would have been one thing if you sent us criteria or said this is why. Nothing. And you, after all the help we tried to get from them, they ignored us. They wouldn't help us. And basically they put our entire business out of business. You know, what do we do? And as stupid as this is, the judge, before the judge actually reviewed the legality of anything, said, oh, you signed a terms of service and it says that they don't have to give you any ads. So therefore, too bad. In reality, that's not the case. In reality, the legality would have been, well, did YouTube favoritistically treat certain people in one way, but then...
You're drawing at straws at that point. First thing, I'm not going to go into that whole Zombie Go Boom situation because it's an interesting read if you ever want to go ahead and take a look at it. Phil's only real care in that whole case was the fact that could he get back pay from what he felt was from his videos that were demonetized. He didn't give a shit about Zombie Go Boom. He still don't. He just brings it up as an example because he has nothing else. And I'm sure he got most of his information off Twitter because he's a, you know, he's a spurg like that. As it pertains to Zombie Go Boom, it's definitely a shit situation. But to sit there and throw up favoritism and get into all of that extra nonsense is on a level where there's just not enough YouTubers that are going to come to each other's aid to support them like that. It is what it is. Especially since when you look at what Zombie Go Boom was doing and then you look at what other people are doing and they're like, you still consider this stuff you consider this advertiser unfriendly, but this is okay? I mean, it's whatever you make of it. For whatever reason. For whatever reason, however the reason, Zombie Go Boom took a hit. I mean, it sucks. Most certainly. For Phil, though, to sit there and try to talk any type of legality, and myself included on that, is kind of stupid because I know he hasn't read into the case as deeply. I know I've read into it a little bit, but certainly not enough to where I can start giving you guys like precision bullet points on what went wrong and so on and so forth. What I will tell you is this. It was a really shitty situation. To be honest, as most situations go, especially when you are a real business and you really do employ people who depend on their jobs, Phil doesn't know anything about that. But Phil does know about how shitting on people who, shitting on companies that employed people who never did nothing to Phil, and then think that's actually a good idea. With that whole machinima thing, right, Phil? You remember that, right? Machinima's going down the drain. Oh, they're going out of business. Ha, 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 ha. They shouldn't have fired me. Ha, 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 ha. I outlasted them. Oh, Phil, what about all those people who lost their jobs? Oh, fuck that. I'm not worried about that. Next day, oh, you guys took what I said out of context. I wasn't laughing at people losing their jobs and shit. You remember that, right, Phil? Remember all that backtracking? All that gay shit? You know what I'm saying? If you're going to be a man and say something, say it. Say it. Say it and stand by it. Don't sit there and backtrack and do all that bitch made shit. Because it don't look good, it didn't sound genuine, and you still harped about Machinima being out of business the days afterwards. Just saying. It's almost like, Phil, if you had an opportunity to get back at them going through gay ops, you might have done it. I'm not saying that you did, because you're not smart enough to, and no one would be dumb enough to work with you. But I'm just saying, if you had an opportunity to fuck over Machinima, you probably would have. You're really good, for whatever reason, dancing on the graves, your words, not mine, of those who you feel that have wronged you in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. I would think a bigger man, or maybe just a man in general, would be able to chalk it up and just keep it moving. But every job that you feel like lets you go unjustly, you always have to show back up later on to give your 2 cents on them going down. It seems kind of pathetic. It really does. It seems kind of sad, to be honest with you, when it's very obvious they fired you for a reason. And look, you outlasted all of them, but yet you're begging for money from kids on Twitch. Quite the win you got there, Phil. What did Mike Watts say to you? Or Mike Watson say? Mike Watson say to you? Yeah, that's quite the accomplishment. Take that to your grave. Good job there, Phil.
Purposely persecute Zombie Go Boom in another way, because if they did, then Zombie Go Boom had a legal case. The problem is the judge just dismissed it. Oh well, you signed a terms of service, I throw this out of court. It's like, what? So you're not even going to look for a second at the legality of anything that happened just because they signed a terms of service? We just ignore anything, any kind of wrongdoing that could have possibly happened. All right, it's just garbage. And in reality,
if that's the case, then what's the point of having a terms of service? Then there's going to be a certain level of risk that comes with all of this. Just saying. I'm not trying to take the side of Google or anything, or YouTube for that matter, but I mean, what's the point of signing then a terms of service then, Phil? Just saying. Kind of like, Phil, when you were sitting there harassing fellow streamers and you ended up catching a ban, or you were supposed to get an indefinite suspension, but you got suspended for like 3 days, despite all the dick you were sucking behind the scenes. Sorry, Phil, maybe you should have looked at the terms of service a little closer, especially since they changed it. You remember those terms of service, right, Phil? Those terms of services that don't affect you, that you don't do those type of things, that don't bother you, you're not going to ever get in trouble, and then you get hit a couple months later. Imagine that. Dspnews.
Law is dependent on how a judge sees things. And I think that's something that eventually needs to change, because you could have a judge that just is completely out of touch with the way things work. Completely out of touch with YouTube, completely out of touch with Twitch. And yet they could determine the future of the internet. You know? Babyman Gaming, 50-bit cheers. Are you a lawyer? No, I'm not. He says, some judges are biased, though. You are right. No, some judges are they just don't understand. You get these guys who don't even know what the fuck YouTube is, don't use it. Yet I'm going to make a giant ruling on YouTube. It's like, dude, how about we get someone in here who fucking at least knows a little bit instead of just making a general ruling? What it basically was, the judge didn't want to be bothered with it. He's like, oh god, this could be some long drawn out bullshit over at some stupid website I don't use. I don't want to deal with it. So he just threw it out of court because he didn't want to fucking do it. It's fucking lazy shit. And sadly, when you have laws that are determined by humans, you'll get lazy shit like that happening all the time.
Further collapse expected.
So let's I'm not gonna even try to dig into that, because I'm not gonna just waste my breath on that one. But so when you have laws determined by humans, you get lazy shit. But the automated systems and the robots are fucking up the actual business of YouTube, because all the humans that are at YouTube or Google are book smart and not street smart. but the automated system's fucking everything up. I'm completely confused on his thought process. It must be the gout. It must be the gout.
To indicated safe zone.
Wow, Flybeast sent me another $60. It said, I hope this helps. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Flybeast. No, it really will help. Right now, everything people have been tipping me is going to go towards bills for the next 2 weeks. Then I finally get that payment.
And him getting tipped twice kind of drives the point home. If it wasn't for the smallest amount of human decency and generosity that Phil is able to muster up for whatever reason, he'd be up shit's creek. He really would. So it's amazing, right? When you have someone like Phil shitting on people who we don't know about a situation that he really doesn't have a full understanding of and whatnot. Myself is also included in that same statement. And yet, he still depends on everyday people who have jobs, who have careers, who have their own wants and needs to support him so he can sit on his dumb ass and spew the type of ignorant bullshit that he spews. You would think, maybe anything that has to do with the outside world that you don't have an understanding of, Phil, you might want to leave that alone. That it's a bit out of your realm, and you might want to leave that to people who are a bit more versatile in that. Or just well-versed in it, I should say. Especially since those very people who are fucking up the laws and doing this, that, and the third, right? You know, all those issues and whatnot, everything that has to do with the human concept of behavior, you depend on that same human behavior to give you money so you can pay all your bills next week. And people come out their face and say, oh, everybody's jealous of Phil, and that's why Phil has all these hardships. If Phil is the definition of struggle, he's the definition of being held down, he's the definition of just having all this bad luck and everybody's out to get him, ladies and gentlemen, despite your age, despite anything, and for all those few people who are young who are coming up, go to school, get your education, save your money, and treat people as you want to be treated. Because if not, you're going to end up like this piece of shit. That's all I can offer you. Save your money, pay attention to school, work hard, and treat people well. That's it. I don't think it's hard. I'm sure Kat says that too. But I don't think it's hard. I really don't. It's amazing how this guy can be just a complete, total piece of human waste. But yet he expects other people to be generous to him. To merely exist. Wow.
From Twitch. And hopefully between that payment should help me to basically pay a lot of things. Including paying.
Just say thank you and move the fuck on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but just say thank you and move on. Stop giving excuses. Stop trying to fish for more tips and shit. Just say thank you. This is really going to help me get me to next week because I'm living from hoof to snout, and just keep it moving. Okay, it's obvious that you can't come up with a lie fast enough. It's obvious that there was a Theo theory that he has like a board or something that he reads a lot of that shit from. Obviously, you're not doing that because it's on the opposite side of the television. Stop. You're making yourself seem more and more incompetent by the day. It's not working. Just say thank you and move on. I know that's hard for you, but try it. It might be worth something.
For my taxes, my tax returns that I'm going to have to do, because I have to pay for them to prepare and do everything next month. And to help pay for some of the taxes. So, yeah, right now is when I really need the help, so I do appreciate it, man. Thank you. You're helping me tremendously right now with that tip. Oh, boy. Timbo Slice says the U.S. justice system is messed up in a lot of ways, or in all ways. Judge seems consistent in rulings don't matter if it's local level or high Supreme Court. Right, no, that's true. Like, there's completely inconsistent rulings. And it's all based on subjectivity of a fucking judge. It's not even objectivity a lot of the time. Like, how could that judge have just thrown it out? Oh, you signed a terms of service. I throw the whole case out. Well, wait a minute. There's many legal issues involved here that the terms of service will not address, but just because of that one thing, he just throws it out because he doesn't want to deal with the case because he's a lazy asshole. You know what I mean? That could have been.
If Phil ever does get in any type of legal problems, I want him to get that same judge. And if you do, Phil, I hope there's a good Samaritan out there who has this clipped, and they send it right to him and be like, hey, before you go ahead and get out there to make your final decision, which I'm sure you've already made, you might want to consider what this guy thought about you. Just saying. Not trying to do that to influence your decision, because you've already made it. You know, you've already have your final judgment in hand. But as you're reading that judgment, I think you would probably want to go ahead and think about this for a little bit. Something to get the noggin jogging, if you will.
Big one. And that could have been a case that determined that YouTube is favoritistic in their design, that they use automated systems that are broken, and they actually actively punish businesses, that they were doing anti-consumer.
Phil, these people don't have to wipe your ass, dude. YouTube is not your fucking parents. They don't have to support you. The fuck is wrong with you? YouTube doesn't owe you shit. Google doesn't owe you a goddamn thing. They had an opportunity for you to make money. You took it. You've been suckling at the tit a little too long anyway. You're going to have to be a man one day and get a real job. I understand that scares you, Phil. I understand that you're going to have to pump gas for somebody who might be a detractor. I'm sorry that you might have to bag groceries for someone who might be a detractor. I'm sorry that you might have to pass out a chicken sandwich to somebody who's probably going to be a detractor. Or you're going to push a detractor's groceries out or something. I'm sorry that's what the case is going to be, but that's what the case is going to be. You can't avoid that. So you being up here being a whiny little bitch does nothing for nobody. It's funny how you talk about all this mature shit, talking about, oh, I'm an adult, you know what I'm saying? You guys don't understand how tough my life is, this, that, and the third. You think your shit's tough now? Nah, bitch. Nah, bitch. Grown man bars are something you're going to have to deal with. And trust me, Phil, when you have to go out there and get a real job, put on a shirt and tie, have to look like an actual human being and not a fucking human pig, human hog, and really have to try to get this job against people who are like 30 years your junior and have the education that can blow you out the water, good job. Good luck trying to talk yourself into a position. Good luck. And keep in mind, people start over in careers all the time. But, like, you're really going to start in at the ground level. You're really going to just start over. Because you're too lazy to go back to school. It seems like you're kind of waiting for mommy and daddy to expire. Which kind of sucks, by the way. Call it the Burnell curse, I guess.
Not anti-consumer, unsafe or unfair business practices in the state of California per California state law. Like, there could have been a lot of rulings, and the judge just throws it out because he's lazy. I guess the whole Guarma segment was blocked, yeah. Again, it's got to be a song. There's got to be a particular song that was used in that segment over and over that fucking some asshole claimed. It was hilarious. The other day I was randomly looking at something in my related video. Sometimes I'll just click on a video. It was about music getting claimed on YouTube. And this guy says, UMG, it's like something music group, is the ultimate final boss of YouTube. Like, they will claim every fucking song ever. And if you get your shit claimed, there's no way to ever get it released. The ultimate final boss of YouTube, UMG. Actually, the funniest thing about the whole situation recently is that I'm playing Kingdom Hearts 3. Today I did the segment of Frozen. Oh, by the way, there's the shooting range for multiplayer, right? So today I did Frozen. And
it's called firing range, by the way, Phil.
Everyone kept telling me, Phil, let it go. The whole song is in the game. everyone who's recording this and uploading it to YouTube is getting it taken down, or they're even getting copyright strikes. Whatever you do, don't let it go. You know, you're going to have to mute it or not upload it. Well, today I fucked up. I was going to mute it. I muted myself by accident instead of the song. So I started recording the song. I'm like, fuck it. Just let it go, right? The name of the song is Let It Go. I said, just let it go. Let it go and we'll see what happens. So I uploaded it to YouTube. It didn't get claimed at all. The whole fucking song is on YouTube. It didn't get claimed. You want to know what did get claimed? There was, I'm not even kidding you, 30 seconds of Would You Like to Build a Snowman? Just the intro of it.
You know what? I wonder if someone could actually copyright Phil's belches and his snorts and his I wonder if someone could actually do that. But anyway, the gameplay was better for it, Phil, having you muted. It's not like you talk a lot anyway, so it wasn't like a whole lot was missing out of it anyway. I'm sure people had a very pleasant experience out of that particular video.
Playing adult Anna is talking over the song to the point where you can't even understand the lyrics. It's actually quite annoying, and I complained about it. I was like, man, I really wish they would just let you play or listen to the song, because she's talking over it. It's actually very jarring and annoying. That got a fucking claim. That shit got claimed. 20, 30 seconds with someone talking over it got claimed, but just let it go with no one talking over it. The whole fucking song didn't get claimed. YouTube sucks my ass. What the fuck? What happened? What was I stuck in? I was stuck. I couldn't see. I don't even know what that was. I want to see what that was. Let me see the kill cam. What was I stuck in? What the fuck was I stuck in? What the hell? I didn't even do that. So the game showed me walk backward up a step onto something. Like I clipped through it. Because what happened was I was trying to aim for him and I was stuck. I couldn't even move. I was like, why can't I move and aim properly? Apparently my character like clipped into that frame or whatever it was. And the thing was blocking my... That was weird. That was fucking weird, dude. I got completely stuck. Kind of hard to aim when, you're stuck in a fucking, you know, you're stuck back first into like a rack or whatever the fuck it was. Wow, through the window. I knew he was gonna have to come to me. There was no way I was gonna kill him with that shitty ass shotgun and no good weapons, so. That was
Got that riveting commentary and gameplay, ladies and gentlemen. It's a rare treat.
Stupid. So the guy just saw me and immediately chucked a grenade, and it just happened to be a cluster grenade that lands on me, and there's no way to get away from it, so I got fucked. Yeah. Sucks. Well, I was third place, right? Third place? Fourth place. Instant kill. Nothing I can do about that. Oh, what? You gotta be kidding me. I thought he was gonna keep going or throw a grenade. He just runs out, goes boop from maximum distance and kills me with his fucking shotgun. Why did I die so quick? Because I didn't have body armor. That's my problem. I didn't have fucking body armor. If I had body armor, I would have been okay. But not fighting the body armor, there was no hope that match. There's absolutely no hope. What? Where'd he go? Huh? Dude, fuck this game. Fuck this fucking game, dude. Fuck this. You tell me he gets off of it and he teleported. You saw that, right? He got off the vehicle and teleported back. because I was aiming for the vehicle firing, and the guy disappeared off my screen. Yes, amazing.
Circle collapse imminent. Get to safety.
How did he know? Dude, something's up. How did he know where I was? I was in the grass. No, dude, that guy was cheating. There's no way. He's cheating. How would he have known? And he killed the other guy too. He was somehow cheating. There's no way how he knew I was there. Prone completely? No.
Save the pig! Awesome. Absolutely funny.
Way, dude. No, dude, he's cheating. That's 100% cheating. It would have been one thing. Oh, I kind of see him. I was prone. There was no way. That's a fucking cheater, dude. That's a cheater. Look. Well, see, the problem is the kill cam, you can't see his point of view because he's on a vehicle. Yeah, look, you can't see me. Can't see me. All right, very bullshit. Bullshit.
Bullshit what? You were a lump out there. Man, I'm not even gonna argue that shit. You were out there. You were out there. You were literally a bump on a log. That was your ass, Mr. Postman.
No, bullshit. That's bullshit. That's not true. Somehow he cheated, dude. That's complete nonsense. But anyway, second place, whatever. That's complete nonsense. I disagree with that. I completely disagree. Completely disagree. Haha. Alright. Well, that's it tonight for tonight's Blackout stream, everybody. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate you guys playing. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Thank you to everyone who was very supportive tonight with tips. Of course, cheers and subs as well. We're good.
AO is hot.
Alright.
Oh boy, that was something special. It really, really was. It really, really was. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, there we go. Terrible transition, buggy transition mechanics. So there you go. It's been a long time since I've recorded one this long, but I think I've addressed all the points needed. I really need to do more of these Q&As that Mr. Huff Stuff has, because he definitely has he gets the gold. He has like a lot of gold mines in this one, so there's a lot to approach. This pertains to Phil. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at least for the time being, with the kind of current setup until we can get everything back to the way it was, well, you know, a bit of transition isn't bad. It's really, this PC is actually pretty smooth and whatnot, so it should work and whatnot. Excuse me. Also, now that I think about it, I think Gout and Wine was on there too. Shit. God damn it. Anyway, hopefully we can recover it. If not, you'll just catch straight videos from us and whatnot. I think the last video that went up on the channel was G Money's music video. Hope you guys like it. I'm thinking about working on something myself. We'll see. And I need to go ahead and, as you heard with the editor calling earlier, I need to go ahead and get ready to get shit going on the second channel, because I've been kind of putting it off, and I wanted to try to have that ready by the beginning of February. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a great day. Hope everything's going well. And we're right back in it. You know what I'm saying? Keeping that bacon sizzling. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DSP News. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. A GTG Network Productions. I am your host / anchor, GTG, and I'm signing off. Have a great day, guys. End the broadcast.